Right, Neil, we're up in the loft here. Couple of things to point out. Currently we're looking at the front elevation here, and as I pointed out in an earlier video, the felt trays, which should actually be visible down there, are not visible because the felt and the felt trays are overlapped incorrectly. So the felt is going down and the felt trays have been fitted on top of it, so they're not visible. Little bit of good news here is that on the rear elevation, can you see that white stuff there? That's the felt on the rear elevation, and it would appear to have been put in correctly as far as we can see. There's no damp issues with any of these rafters here. There's quite a bit of damage to the underfelt in places, which is rather unfortunate. Effectively, it's not going to cause a leak unless, you see, if we look at this one for example, that big rip there. If a tile broke anywhere in this run, then it would come in there. But to rectify that is essentially take off all the tiles and refelt the roof. Most people would tend to ignore that and just hope that you don't get too many leaks. Okay, the roof insulation here is woefully inadequate. It's about 2 inches. The recommended amount these days I think is 250 mil, which would come up to about here. So really that should be done. In places the roof insulation is actually missing.
Yeah.
If we look over there, that's above the front bedroom, so that's going to be quite cold. So that's something to bring to your attention. Just for your information here, this is rather an interesting construction here. They've done, this is called your purlin, okay, and these are your joists, and we've got a cross joist here, which is normally in place to stop these from sagging. And very often you'll have what's called whip straps coming down here to lend support to the joists to give the ceilings extra support, because these timbers are usually massive. We look here, this timber here is approximately 6x2, which roof purlins are normally around about 12 inches by 3 inches, so it's tiny. You look at the construction here, they've made effectively, what's the name for this construction, Craig? Do you remember? Anyway, it's the same construction that they use for construction bridges. Yeah. So what they've done here is they've made this and this as one solid construction going all the way across. If you look closely, that's buried into the wall, as well as the purlin, which you would expect, but these usually aren't, but it is here. And by doing this lattice work and the plywood gussets, they've made an incredibly strong structure, and this relatively tiny timber supports the roof. Very interesting. I think that's the first time I've ever seen it in my career. It's on both sides. Interesting. An awful lot of work. It would have been cheaper just to use heavier timbers, but for some reason they've chosen to do it this way. So nothing wrong with it. It's glued as well, as you can see from all the weepage around there. So it's a really, really good, solid job there. The only criticism up here really is the lack of insulation. As a footnote here, Craig spotted some mouse droppings over there, and well, there's a couple of traps there with a bit of dust on them, but we think, we can't be sure, we're not experts on mice, but we think that the droppings are relatively fresh, so I think we might have some little mices up here. Okay, end of the loft report.